Creating Connections Podcast, episode 163. I'm Mitch Taylor.
And I'm Vicki Misney.
And today we welcome a woman who works with organizations who want to connect and engage with their customers to increase sales. Sounds familiar. She has over 20 years of experience in sales, marketing, and sales management from TV stations, affiliates such as Fox, NBC, CBS, and Comcast. And she's consulted over thousands of small to medium-sized businesses. She's an expert, which we love about this episode. She's an expert at using LinkedIn to increase your leads, nurture prospects, and get more customers.
I can't wait to introduce you to my friend, Jennifer Darling. That was nice and easy.
What are you talking about? This also speaks to a much bigger issue.
Providing personal solutions through understanding people. This is the Creating Connections podcast with Gitomer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Misney.
Welcome to Creating Connections podcast with Mitch Taylor.
And Vicki Misney and our
you.
good friend, Jennifer Darling.
Hello, guys. How are you this morning?
Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm awesome. Thank you. Just here in sunny California. Ooh.
We're just excited that you're here and with us today for this interview. So
this is our episode with you.
Yeah, you tell us your story.
Yeah.
I know. Well, I grew up in Michigan. So I was in Michigan I graduated from college in Michigan, and I had my first job. I moved to northern Michigan for my first job working for a TV station and TV advertising sales. And so I drove around all northern Michigan. I've seen the whole thing, driving around, knocking on doors and making cold calls.
What college did you go to?
I went to Western Michigan.
Go Broncos.
Yeah. Yeah, so my first job was going from Western Michigan University down in Kalamazoo, Michigan, which I moved to Cadillac, Michigan. That's like 20 degrees colder, like 20 to 50% more snow. I had this really cute little Grand Am when they still made them with these low profile tires. And I was all that. So I'm driving my little butt around northern Michigan, knocking on doors and making cold calls to all these. Exactly. I mean, literally, like, I don't know that people that are new to sales now realize, like, I'm not being sarcastic. I literally drove around and knocked on doors and asked, can I just meet with the decision maker so I could make some cold calls and sell some advertising?
And that's a lesson that I think in sales is so important to learn, is darkening those doors and getting out there in front of people.
You know, Mitch, I'm so surprised I stayed in sales after that experience. Can you imagine driving an hour? Now, you'll know what I'm talking about. Not everybody will, but driving an hour in northern Michigan from Cadillac to Manistee, Michigan, and it's just tons of snow dumping in this car that doesn't get through snow. So I'm already sweating my fanny off by the time I start cold calling. And then I'm knocking on doors all day and everybody's telling me no. At least I was nice enough and cute enough. And they were pretty nice telling me no most of the time. Some people were not so nice. And then I'd get in my car and I'd drive back home, and I did this every day. And, I had to deal with a lot of rejection, a lot of no's in my face. Now people can tell you no on the telephone or email, and it's not such a big thing. But yeah, got up and made those cold calls. But I think it was great experience.
So
it is interesting though. Oh, sorry. It's the good, the bad, and the ugly of timing and the way things change. I mean, I think you're saying it's good that you went through that and you learned a lot, but now, I mean, it's so much different.
Yeah. And I think people think now it's so much harder. Like, oh, it's so much harder because there's so, right? Mitch is shaking his head, but the reality is that people who didn't do cold calling are thinking, oh my gosh, it's so much harder to do cold calling today because nobody ever takes your phone call. Nobody ever listens to your email or opens your email. Nobody's on social media. They've got thousands of options. Well, I'm here to tell you that I would much rather be, making a phone call, be making an email, be making a social media connection than driving around trying to, get to 7 places a day. I can talk to and get to and make so much more influence with people a lot more efficiently nowadays than I could at that time. Now, I'm not saying cold calling, like driving around cold calling is dead, because for some industries, actually, it's not, it's a good idea. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah, especially for the people that we talk to typically from a standpoint of event professionals, to get out there and shake hands and get to that networking mixer, or to stop into that venue, obviously not unannounced, or hopefully not unannounced, actually make a connection for a meeting.
Yeah.
It's important to get out there and do the face-to-face.
If you know the right people are there,
Mm-hmm.
then why not? I mean, you're going to be different than other people. So I spent most of my time, so I've spent 20 years in advertising sales, television, radio, cable. Cable's TV, but in the media world, you say TV's one thing and cable's another.
Yes, yes.
Terms wise, you probably do that too in the main professional industry, right? And so what happens is, we've got you have got lots of different competition. 20 years, lots has changed, and yet tons has stayed the same. So what's changed is the way people are consuming things. What stayed the same is that relationships and growing and building relationships has stayed the same. I don't care if you read a book from 100 years ago in sales. It's still about the relationship and building relationship, because people, now Jeffrey Gittimer will come up in my saying, but people have to like you and trust you and have confidence in you before they may buy from you. Those are so important, and you can't do that just sitting around, making cold calls all day long, every day.
Yes, absolutely. And that's kind of our connection. And, we just literally met 5 minutes ago. I know Vicki and you have actually, sat and talked and everything. But we had that common Gittimer thing in common. So
well, and I said that after I met Jennifer over a Facebook message. She actually introduced herself to me and said, "Hey, I noticed we have all of these things in common. Let's connect." And we did. And then we went and met for coffee. But I actually watched her on a webinar first. And when I found out about the Gittimer background and her training and just watching her personality, I actually messaged Mitch and I said, "Mitch, if you and I were the same person, I think we'd be her."
So it would be a Mickey or a Vitch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm combining your names just in case somebody didn't pick that up.
Yep.
Combining your names.
No, that would work.
Doesn't work for the two of you. So.
I think that's this podcast title, I think.
I hope not.
Or it could be Vitch Mickey. We could just combine the whole thing, mix it up a little bit.
There you go.
Yeah.
But you know what?
Something else. Your personality and the sales background and the connection and the drive for building relationships authentically, whether that's in person and or online, and ideally some combination thereof. I just knew that we had a lot in common, and I wanted you to be a guest on our show. So.
And you know what? You actually bring up a really good point I've been thinking a lot about lately, because I've been getting out and doing a lot of sales training to new teams. So I told you I spent 20 years in advertising, and quite frankly, there's a lot of the same people I know from 20 years, a lot of same business owners. I've been in the same city I'm in California now. After my 1 year of driving around making cold calls in the snow in Michigan, I hightailed it to California. That's a whole different deal. But what I realized recently is so amazing to me is that personality plays a really big role in being successful at sales, and specifically friendliness.
Yes.
I've been out training teams, and I have seen people, so friendly, and then I've seen people who are not friendly at all. And I wonder if they even know that they're not friendly. But I'm going to just pose kind of a challenge to your viewers, is that if you're not closing enough sales in your business, you might want to take a step back and look at your friendly factor. Look and see, how friendly are you really coming across? Because I know that I want to do business with people I like, right? And if you are, especially in an industry, I think where it can be, you have varying degrees of sophistication, right? In your industry. So
that's a good way to label Art.
That's a
Yeah, I
really
mean,
good label.
That's yes.
yeah, so you might, we might have a country barn wedding, and we might have, a wedding I actually was a server at a private country club in Michigan. And when I was there, I was a banquet server for weddings. And then I also, I managed the halfway house between the 9th and 10th holes, which
Yeah.
was so much fun. That was
You may
super.
You may be at the W or you may be at the VFW,
That's right. And either way is totally awesome. And I suppose you could be at the VFW and still be facing Bridezilla, but you might be more likely at the W. Who knows?
Sure.
But the friendly factor, like maybe if you just take a look at how friendly are people attracted to you when you go to Chamber of Commerce meetings or other kinds of meetings? Are people coming up to you wanting to talk to you, or people steering away from you? That's a really good indication. Because I've seen some salespeople lately where I'm like, wow, you are so not friendly. And you need to practice friendliness if you want to be successful at sales. I know it's funny, but it's so true.
You can say what you really mean. You really suck. It's
You're not a bitch. You're something totally.
Oh my goodness. I'm trying to keep us on track and segue us back, but I think this whole concept of friendly factor is actually going to be a really nice transition, because I want to make sure we spend some time talking about LinkedIn and online connecting.
Yeah.
But I think the friendly factor is important. It may look a little bit different on social media, but it's huge. There are lots of, just like you were saying, in the interactive sense when you're networking or someone at a mixer, there's also social etiquette rules that we need to follow in the online world, and the friendly factor does play a part.
Yeah, I don't think it looks different online. I have tons of people who don't know me, who've never met me in person, and send me messages. I had one happen 2 days ago, and I posted on Facebook because it was such a great example. She said, I love how you present yourself, and you're so real and so nice, and you're not salesy, and I want to be just like you. I've never met this person in person. I think what happens is when you start complaining on social media and you start putting negative things on social media, sometimes I put a little bit of negative stuff, like I'm having, like, if I'm like having a really bad day, I might put something, and then I go and I take it off, because what I realize is that something creates the space for a negative feeling. Is my life Pollyanna? No, it's not Pollyanna, but my brand is a positive, friendly brand. And so the messages I put on social media, I want them to be positive and friendly. So if I put something, I'm having a bad day, I probably pretty quickly pull it back, or I put a spin on the end, which is, I had this bad day, but this is how it all ended up. And because if you keep doing that over and over, it's like my 16-year-old niece who keeps putting her drama on Facebook. This is what people start to think about you. Well, gosh, is everything just horrible? Why do I want to work with you?
Yeah. I think that's important to know. And Lord knows I've shared negative things on Facebook before, and try, right? But I love the fact,
though, Mitch, you can go back and delete them later if you realize you've made a mistake.
Absolutely. Well, not only that, but just, I love what you talked about. Is your life Pollyanna? No, but your brand is a positive message. And I think that's the key, one of the key takeaways there. What would you give for tips then, Jennifer, to find out if you're friendly or not, and then to be more friendly?
I would say probably a couple of different things. The first thing that comes to mind is, are people connecting with you? So I just talked a little bit about Facebook, but my passion is LinkedIn.
Yes.
LinkedIn is all business. Facebook's, we've got drama, we have family, we have politics. I can't put a single political thing out because I'm going to tick 50% of the people off. If I have an opinion on politics, half the people are going to be mad because this country is, divided in half, one way or the other, pretty much. So I would say, one is, are people connecting with you? Do people want to connect with you? Are they saying that they heard about you from such and such? Because good and bad people. So if you're positive and you're negative, you're going to be talked about. And if you're negative, people aren't going to reach out to you. If you're positive, people are going to say, oh, I want to be like you. I want to be in your world. I want to be in your tribe. Mm-hmm. The other thing I think you take a look at is go back and look at your social media posts. Go back and read them like you're somebody else, like you're your customer. What if you're your best customer and you go back and read your social media posts from a week or 2 weeks? If that's not far enough, keep going back and see what is the message that if I were to look at somebody else, I would put that out there. I'm going to add one more thing. Actually, I'm going to add 2 more things if it's okay.
Go ahead.
Thing 1, I learned a couple years ago to write down the values by which I establish myself and my business. Sometimes I get away from those values and I have to check myself and get back into them because Lord knows I am not perfect. My values are positivity, energy, problem solving, being a caring person. So if I ever find myself feeling uneasy, sometimes I have to go back and I have to check against my values and say, integrity, integrity is top one. Like, am I living in integrity? Does that make me feel uncomfortable? Because if it does, I'm not living in integrity and those aren't part of my values and I need to change me. I can't change other people. I can only change me. So that's a part of it. And then I take those same values and they're what I put into my social media world. They're what I put into my networking. They're what I put into my cold calls if I'm going cold calling. And like I said, I make mistakes. If I go in a bad cold call and somebody's nasty to me and I walk out in my car, I might think they're just a horrible person and I might say a few things in my brain or out loud about them. And then I got to check myself and say, well, is that in integrity? Is that in caring? Is that in positivity? No, because I don't know what's going on in that person's day. The last thing I'll add to that, and geez, I'm preparing a whole new session right now talking to you guys, a new training session. The last thing I was at is, what if you sat down and you wrote a letter to yourself as if you were your best customer? So you sit down, dear Vicki, I really enjoyed my time with you. I really loved your training on the business of personality. Or Mitch, I really loved the sales training that you did for our industry. And you made such a positive impact on our sales teams that's going to result in a positive impact on our clients. What if you sat down and wrote that letter to yourself about what your best client might say to you? What would that be? And how can you put that into your brand and out into your world in speaking, networking, referrals, building relationships, social media, all of it? That would be the way. That would be a great way to know if you're being friendly or not, because you write that letter and you're going, I'm not living up to these things. Then you can make some changes. Awareness, right? You just are aware. I'm not living up to what I want to be, because sometimes I'm so busy in the business of my business, I'm not looking at these factors.
And I think one thing you said there, I loved everything you said, frankly, but it reminded me of go back and see what you wrote. I love this on this day in history on Facebook or whatever, it was 1 year ago, 6 years ago. You see, your track record is there. Now, whatever happens with Facebook, who knows, but still the track record's there right now for you to look and observe. And then, the whole thing about what you said about writing the letter to yourself. Yeah. That's huge. And then also pull your past client testimonials. And something I've recommended to people before is go through and tally the words that people use to describe your services. Mm-hmm. Put the top 3, the words that show up in your own marketing, because that is who you are.
That's an awesome idea. Yeah. That's how others see you. And the perception is reality, right? That whole perception is reality thing is super true.
And that's who you're attracting.
That shift of perspective is so important, whether you're doing it by looking at things that they've actually written about you, or you're almost doing it hypothetically. What do I want people to say about me and my service? Those can both be very healthy in vision casting. Yes. This is where I want to be. Am I there yet? I'm on the right track. I veered off here. I need to.
Those two match.
Yeah.
Do they match?
Mm-hmm.
If they match, then you're on the right track. If they don't match, then
Yeah. Or you could still be positive in where you are, but you might want to go even farther in one direction. That was a really healthy thing.
Absolutely.
I want to make sure, Jennifer, that we take a few minutes to talk about LinkedIn, because I admitted to you when I first met you, I've only ever lived on Facebook. I've been there for over 10 years. It is my hub. I've straight up told people when I meet them in real life that I don't know how to be friends with people that aren't on Facebook. I don't know how to invite you to things. I don't know how to keep in touch. That's my hub. And that's how I share my life and my photos and my family and my business. And then I met you, and then I kind of had this little tug. Oh yeah, LinkedIn, that's that thing that I signed up for 6 or 7 years ago, and I've logged in 3 times. So I took an online webinar with you back in January, I think it was, and I made a to-do list, and I said, I'm going to start doing some of these things, and I've made some big changes, but I'd love for you to just share kind of just the brief highlights. Why LinkedIn? Why now? And then maybe just 1 or 2 practical tips.
Sure. Well, the good news is if you signed up for a LinkedIn account anywhere from a year ago to 14 or 16 years ago when they started, and you haven't been using it, it's okay, because now is a good time to get on board. So don't go back and beat yourself up, but start to look at it now, because LinkedIn was purchased by Microsoft a couple years ago. It'll be 2 years in June, and Microsoft bought them for billions of dollars. And they're making a lot of improvements in the software in the LinkedIn platform. You'll already see it has a new platform from what it did a couple years ago. And the people who were on board with LinkedIn at the time were not very happy about those changes. But all the new people really loved the changes, so it was great. They're putting tons of resources in it, and it has become the Google for professionals. So if you're B2B, or if you're B2C, business to consumer, and your consumers are professional people, it's the place to be. You can research people, you can find people, you can connect with people. And one of the most exciting things about LinkedIn that makes it so different than Facebook is that it creates searchability for you. So if you put any content on there, it becomes searchable on Google, Yahoo, and Bing. What you put on Facebook's only searchable within Facebook. So a lot of people have websites, spend a ton of money on websites, and then only the people who know about you go to your website. Only the people you tell to go to your website go there, or you spend money advertising to get people there. LinkedIn is actually generating search for you, but the key is you've got to know the right things to do on LinkedIn, and it's quite a few things you have to do on LinkedIn to get there. I know, Vicki, we've talked, you've spent a significant amount of time implementing the suggestions.
Yes. I took copious notes during that webinar, and I started revisiting what my pictures were going to look like, how I was going to write my summary, updating the resume part and making sure that I had media in there and asking for recommendations.
It's not a set it and forget it. It is a marketing strategy that you implement and you continue to use that will definitely help you build your business. But if you just put it up and don't go and don't engage and don't do the strategic components that I teach people, then it's not going to be relevant for you. But if you do those things, you'll be found in searches probably before your website will ever be found in searches.
Well, that searchability thing that you taught us was huge to me, because I know a lot of people that are writing articles and blogs, and Mitch, you're totally in this category. Just knowing that you can take those things that you're already producing and publish them as LinkedIn articles. And then having a strategically written bio at the end with a see more for more information, links back to your own website, how it can just come full circle and have a much bigger impact. So
when you're posting an article in Facebook, you're not publishing anything in Facebook, you're posting it from a link. But you can actually publish an article in LinkedIn. It's like putting an article in the Wall Street Journal, or the New York Times, you're actually publishing it in there. You're not just grabbing the link and putting it in the New York Times. It's being published in there to go out to people all over the world. And I got one that went viral and has over 6,600 views. It's still being viewed all over the world. So that searchability factor to me is a really big one, because we're all trying to get our name out there. We're all trying to get more clients and more leads. We're all trying to build ourselves up in an industry or niche. And so if you're new to LinkedIn, get on now, get ahead of your competitors, because everybody's going to be going to LinkedIn eventually, because it's the only social media platform that's growing. And the only big social media platform that's growing. There may be some small ones I don't know about that are growing, but as far as the mainstream social media, Facebook's going backwards. You know, a lot of stuff's going down with Facebook right now. It's still a huge machine, and I still use it a lot, but there's so much going on right there with Facebook. LinkedIn is supported by Microsoft, and you want to get on board before your competition does, because you can carve yourself out in a niche right now that will be huge to your business in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. And I went to speak at a national convention for professional speakers that no new speakers ever speak at. It doesn't happen. It's not a normal thing. I got on their speaking lineup to do a session because my LinkedIn profile was set up as expertise in professional speaking, and specifically I spoke about LinkedIn there. But had I not been doing all that work, I wouldn't have been there speaking. They're looking for, they've got Hall of Fame speakers that have been doing this for 20 years, not people who, you know, just started their business speaking. Sure. So it's really, you can set yourself apart from your competition in a big way by being there.
Awesome. Where can people go to get more information about you, Jennifer? I'm assuming LinkedIn.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. You can go to my website, darlingcoaching.com. I do have a workshop that's coming up pretty soon. darlingcoaching.com/LinkedIn. You'll find all the information about that. And also there's a free ebook on my website too that'll give you a bunch of tools for to get started on LinkedIn. I mean, I've spent hundreds of hours researching LinkedIn, testing LinkedIn. I spend time every single week making sure I understand what's coming up new. I know all the tips and tricks, you know, that
so the takeaway here is you spent the hundreds of hours doing the research, so we can just learn from you without having to spend our own hundreds of hours.
You don't have to do that. No, I mean, it can be painful for people to try to figure it out, because especially Vicki, and because I know you've done a lot of work and we've been chatting about it, you know, I mean, it can take a lot of time. And if you've got to figure this stuff out on your own and take all that time to do the research, you know, it's going to take you 2 years, just like, you know, where I'm at right now. So I cut all that stuff out. I did a website, because it's pretty much like a website, like it's even better than a website, right? So I did this one for a client, her name's Lee. And in 1 month, Lee went from, we have this thing called a social selling index. And
like a rating system.
Yeah. She went from 66 all the way up over 80, which is an indicator to let you, to your searchability, how searchable you are off and on the platform. In 1 month from the changes that we made for her, she wouldn't have been able to figure that out on her own. Plus, she was positioned all wrong. She was positioned in the wrong industry. She didn't even know it.
Well, and when I first heard about that SSI from you, I was at a 17. And then in less than 2 weeks, I went to a 56. So which is still a huge jump. But that was what I got for not touching it, you know, 17% essentially for not touching it for years. And then once I said, okay, and I did spend a little bit of time that first week setting things up, but now I'm kind of in a 5 to 10 minutes a day is all I'm doing. And I'm still able to build and grow. And when I have more time, I might go read more articles. But I will take at least 5 minutes a day just to make sure that I'm sending a few messages, checking notifications, and connecting with, responding to people that are sending me connection requests. So,
and I think that's the thing, it does take some time getting it set up. It is part of a marketing strategy, but once you get it set up the right way, then you can just spend 5 to 10, 15 minutes a day on the platform, and you'll really be doing a great service for your business. I love LinkedIn. I think it's just a really, I'm surprised they don't charge for it because it's super valuable.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, it's been
Great
awesome.
tips.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You guys are awesome. Thank you for having me.
No, it was our pleasure. Thank you
Our
so much
pleasure.
for joining us and sharing all of your tips with our audience. And we just really appreciate you being here.
You're welcome. It's the blue team today, though, right?
Yes.
We're all in blue. I'm sure that has some meaning.
Of course it does. Michigan, go blue.
That's right. Go blue. Although I was a little upset by this playoffs recently.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, I was pretty happy they made it that far. So
Yes.
when it was all said and done, I'm like, oh, well, they'll be pretty happy, I think.
Yeah,
Totally.
Totally.
Awesome, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Right.
I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you on LinkedIn, and I'll see you around town.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thanks,
Take
Jennifer.
care.
Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Do you see why I love her so much?
Oh my gosh, she was great. I loved her tips, and I need to go get her ebook like now.
Yeah, I've always appreciated that, and maybe it's because she has that shared red side with us. She's a red yellow like I am, that she's very practical. Now, I've seen her on webinars, I've seen her speak in person before, and now in the interview format, but she is always so good at just dropping really helpful tips. Not this like, vague, oh yeah, you have to do all of these things and you better take my class to learn about it. It's more like, no, you can do this and you can do this. And if you need more help, then please sign up for the class. But she's all about giving helpful tips every time I talk with her or see her present. So
go check out Jennifer's website. Be sure to connect with her on LinkedIn. And I know that her tips will take you far. Thanks so much for watching Creating Connections Podcast, episode 163. I'm Mitch.
And I'm Vicki.
We provide personal solutions through understanding people better. We'll see you next time.
Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to the Creating Connections Podcast with Gittimer Certified Advisor Mitch Taylor and Certified Personality Trainer Vicki Musni. For more information on providing personal solutions through understanding people better, visit creatingconnections.biz.